All right, welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to be talking about solo 401ks and what they look like and kind of some interesting features associated with them. My name is Sean McKay, and this is an American IRA presentation on self-directed retirement accounts. And so at American IRA, we are your provider for both self-directed IRAs as well as solo 401ks. We are actually one of the longest running self-directed providers in the nation. We were founded in 2004 in Asheville, North Carolina, by Jim Hitt. Excuse me. So we currently have over 600 million in assets, which is really, frankly, by design. We want to be kind of that continuous boutique provider. We're not looking to scale to be the largest provider. We want to be the best provider. And so ultimately, we couple kind of a phenomenal team that supports your account with an incredibly low fee schedule. And so for our IRA product, what you find is that in our industry, we're incredibly cost effective because your annual fee will not change as your account value grows. The same thing holds true for our solo 401k product. With the solo 401k, what you find in the industry is that the fees are going to be higher because this is a plan concept that the administrator or custodian is working with as opposed to just simply an IRA. And so for our solo 401k product, the annual fee is an additional $300 a year, so $585 a year. And so again, back to our phenomenal customer service, regardless of the platform that you look at, you're going to find that we're incredibly highly rated. So again, phenomenal fees and phenomenal customer service. So what's great about these solo 401k products that we'll discuss is that these are accounts that you can utilize for any type of strategy. So it could be a real estate-based strategy, it can be private equity, it can be cryptocurrencies, precious metals. You can still invest in the stock market. So really anything that's not collectibles and life insurance policies, you're able to invest in with either a self-directed IRA or a self-directed solo 401k. And so as you think about these investments, keep in mind there's really three acquisition strategies that you'll largely utilize. So option one is where the retirement account is the sole owner and it simply pays cash for the asset. Concept number two is where the retirement account is going to joint venture. It's going to partner with other investors to make the acquisition of an asset. And then option three is where the retirement account is going to borrow money to buy an income producing asset. So something like a rental property or a ownership stake in a business. That's something where a retirement account can be involved in using debt or using leverage. So what we'll find today is that the solo 401k has kind of interesting taxation rules relative to the self-directed IRAs. And so as far as the solo 401ks go, it's important to note that these are investment vehicles for those that are self-employed and do not have full-time employees other than a spouse that actually works in the business or someone that is deemed to be a quote unquote highly compensated employee per the IRS guidelines. And your CPA can certainly assist you with that. Now, as far as the contribution limits go, what you're going to find is that the maximum contribution for a solo K is roughly about 10x of what we have for our typical IRA products. So Roth IRAs and traditional IRAs, your contribution limit is 6,000 or 7,000, depending upon whether you're under or over 50 years old. With the solo K, individuals under 50, the max contribution is 61K. For individuals self-employed without full-time employees that are 50 plus, you can put up to 67,500 into that account. Excuse me. And so when we're looking at the solo 401k, there's really two components inside of the 401k product. So there's the ability to contribute as an employee in the business. And then there's also the ability for the business, for you as the business owner, as the employer, to do kind of a profit sharing component for that vehicle. And so ultimately, with the employee deferral, that can be either pre or post-tax money. So it could be Roth or traditional monies that you're putting into the account. So that's 20,500 for individuals under 50. Individuals 50 plus, it's actually 27K that you can put in as an employee in your business. Now, in addition to the employee component, there's also profit sharing. So depending upon how your business is set up, it's either 25% or 20% of the net income in the business. That gives you an additional tranche of money, if you will. And so the most you're going to be able to get into the profit sharing component is 40,500 into that account. So again, that gets us to that total max contribution of the 61,000 or the 67,500, depending upon your age. Now, what's interesting about the Solo K is that is the only self-directed vehicle where you can actually borrow money from the retirement account. So the way that that works is the most you can borrow is $50,000, but the analysis is predicated on 50% of the balance of your account. And so, for example, if you have $20,000 in your solo 401k, you could borrow up to $10,000. If you have 30K, you could borrow up to 15K. If you have $500,000 in your solo 401k, the most you would be able to borrow is $50,000. Now, as I mentioned earlier, as we looked at the acquisition strategies, there's a difference between the way IRAs are going to be treated versus solo 401ks from a leverage standpoint. Now, this is certainly something where you want to have discussions with your CPA, but it's important to note that if you're using leverage for the original purchase of a property, then you can actually work around the tax consequence, which is called UDFI, unrelated debt financed income. So the way that that works is if the IRA is borrowing money for a rental property, for example, and let's say at some point down the road, the IRA sells that property and the mortgage is still on the property, then the IRA, a portion of that profit from the sale of the property will be subject to a tax consequence, UDFI. Conversely, with the Solo K, under most circumstances, if the retirement account, the Solo 401k puts debt on the initial acquisition of the property, so purchase price debt, and does not refinance at any point in time, you're typically not going to have a tax consequence, even if you sell that property and there's still a mortgage on the property when it is sold. So a very interesting and advantageous tool with that Solo 401k. And so as far as the Solo 401k goes, there's a couple of ways you can structure that account. So most typically what we see is that clients are hiring American IRA to provide the plan as well as the record keeping. So the record keeping is what we're doing for IRAs. So we're involved in the inflow and the outflow of monies. We're involved in signing of documents. We're involved in the day-to-day activity with the IRAs. So that'd be the same thing with the Solo 401ks, where the monies are flowing in and out of our trust accounts, and you're directing us to sign documents and to do the record keeping for the assets that your Solo 401k owns. Now, the other option is for clients to go with what we call a plan-only concept. And so with that, we are not involved in holding the monies for the Solo 401k and doing the record keeping for the inflow and outflow of assets. So for those of you that feel very comfortable with those roles and responsibilities, it's something where you can be your own trustee and you can just simply hire American IRA to provide the Solo 401k plan itself. So again, this is certainly something for those that are very comfortable, feel as though they're a really sophisticated self-directed investor, but it is an option for those clients that believe they fall into that category. So whenever we're looking at whether it's the IRAs or the Solo Ks, there's a definite structure to a successful self-directed journey. And so with the Solo 401k, please keep in mind it's slightly different deadlines. So with the Solo 401k, you must establish the account by the end of 2022, in order to have an account eligible for contributions for the year 2022. Certainly for IRA products, you can actually establish them in the year after the account needs to be structured so that you can, just as long as you're meeting the tax deadline, that account will work. So for example, with our Roth IRAs, our traditional IRAs, those accounts, in order to have a 2022 eligible account to make contributions, You just need to make sure that you're going to meet the tax deadline in early 2023. So usually April 15th. With the solo 401k, you have to have that account established before the end of the calendar year. Practically speaking, what I will tell you is December is usually an incredibly busy month. A lot of people looking to structure their retirement accounts, set up new accounts, etc. So we do encourage you to kind of front load this setting up of the account activity if at all possible, so that, again, it's not a rush thing at the end of the year. Excuse me. And so if you haven't already, we definitely ask you check out our 2 YouTube channels. So we have American IRA LLC, and we also have a sister channel, The Lousy Investor, where it's not always self-directed IRA related. We're just simply talking about investment concepts, usually goofy mistakes I've made in my own investing career, every once in a while talking about something that actually went pretty well. And so that hopefully is useful for you in your investment journey there. If you're interested in the solo 401k, we'd love to be a resource for you. You can email me, Sean, SEAN, at AmericanIRA.com. Our website is AmericanIRA.com, and our phone number is 828-257-4949. So again, really appreciate everyone joining us today. Thanks so much for stopping by, and hopefully check out some new content coming up in the future here. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.